Hey Mike,
Hi,
how
Heather.
are you? Good, good. I kind of screwed up this week. We were supposed to have a live stream next week, but I got the dates wrong in my calendar. But it's really awesome that I could still like see you and talk with you and do this and everything. So thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, the pleasure is all mine. I actually went to my channel at YouTube today and saw that we have this scheduled. So I can see we only have one person, Paul Andrews, in the audience. So why don't we just take this show as far as we can and we'll see what Paul
Okay.
has for us. And we will probably end it early, okay?
Okay. Well, anyone who's watching, if you have questions, put them in the chat so we can do more people in here. And let's go to the first question. Oh, first, do we have trivia?
We do actually.
Ooh.
Although I didn't even know we were going to do this show until about an hour ago. Um, this weekend, a friend of mine is turning 60. And if you do the math, that would put her born in the 60s, like me. And so I am going to go to her party and do a 60s trivia challenge. So as
Oh,
long as
that's
I took the trouble of writing up some questions, I'm going to throw them at you guys.
yes.
So I'm going to skip some of the hard ones for now. Question number one is which car from the 1960s did Ralph Nader claim was unsafe at any speed?
So if you guys know the answer to that, put that in the chat. I have no idea. I'm going to go with the DeLorean because you don't want to get it above 88 miles per hour. That's what I'm thinking.
That's kind of a good guess, but it would be wrong because number one, the DeLorean was an 80s car. And number
Okay.
two, the DeLorean was at least kind of implied to be safe up to 88. And I remember that back in the day when um, the car reviewers would say this car is safe at speeds under, say, 80 miles an hour or 75 or whatever. But Ralph Nader, who was a big consumer advocate at the time, and you may remember was the spoiler in the 2000 presidential election, claimed that the blank car was unsafe at any speed, basically to make a joke that it was just so bad you shouldn't drive it even at a slow speed.
Okay, so if you guys know the answers to that, put that in the chat. And as one of our viewers noted, may the fourth be with you.
Yes, I forgot to say that. Happy Star Wars Day, everybody, and may the fourth be with you.
Woo, I think the force is what brought us together today. Uh, so while we are waiting for everyone to answer the trivia, let's do a gambling question. And our
Okay.
first one comes from Paul. If a video poker game offers double up feature, should I play it considering there is no house edge? And if so, to what end?
Okay, that's a good question that I've heard several times before. And the answer comes down to what is your reason for gambling in the first place? And I would say, as long as you can stand some volatility, that you should do the double up feature on small wins, say up to a win of 10 times your bet, something like that. But if you don't like volatility and you like your money to last a long time, then I would decline it, or maybe only do it once after a, a high pair win. But if your goal is to lose as little as possible relative to the total amount that you bet, then you should do that double up feature. For the
Okay.
same reason, I say you should take advantage of the odds in craps after say a pass bet. It's why turn down a bet with no house advantage as long as you're gambling in the first place. But again, exceptions would be you're not comfortable betting that much or you just don't like volatility.
Okay. And since that was a such an easy question to answer, let's do one more. Should I expect the house edge on video Keno to be better than any slot in the same casino?
That's another good question. And I find that the house edge in Video Keno is probably about the same as the simple slots in the casino. not the really fancy ones that are branded around a movie or something. Those tend to be set even tighter. And one thing I've always said is that you can tell how loose or stingy a casino is with their slots by how they set their video Keno, which is quantifiable. So, good question.
Very cool. Okay, so let's see if you guys have an answer to the trivia. And is it Couvert?
Yes, it is. It is the Chevrolet Couvert. Give a point to Techniques.
Nice.
A popular brand of electronics in the 60s. In fact, I had a Techniques tape player. Okay, question number 2. And by the way, as usual, no searching allowed. Question number 2. In 1961, who became the first man in space?
Okay, so put that answer in the chat. And my guess would be William Shatner.
Nope.
Dang.
Nope, he would have been a little kid at the time, maybe not even born. No, he would have been born. He's probably about 70 now, right?
I was thinking he was the first one in space because, Star Trek was in the 60s.
Yeah, no, I know why you said that, but of course, I'm talking about the real world.
Oh, okay. So our next gambling question comes from Paul. In bubble craps, should I always buy the 4 and 10 and the 5 and 9 since the VIG is on a win and it's figured to the penny?
Okay, so if you buy the 4 and the 10 and the VIG is only charged on a win, then the house advantage should be 1.67%, but let me verify that. So I'm going to divide 5% by 3 because you only win 1/3 of the time. So there we go, 1.67% house advantage, which for craps is pretty low. And on the 5 and 9, you're going to pay that VIG 40% of the time. So that's a house advantage of 2%. So so how shall I put this? I still think that making line bets like the come or don't come and then putting the odds after them is a better value. But I know that's just not the way a lot of players like to play. They like to cover numbers immediately. So if you're that type of player that likes to just cover numbers immediately, yeah, then that's not a bad strategy. But if you're really trying to lose as little as possible relative to the amount you bet, much like the player in the video poker question, then I would recommend only line bets and backing them up with the odds. And furthermore, let me say that if you do like to bet directly on the 4, 5, 9, and 10, then I would only do that if they charge the commission on a win only. Don't do it if you have to prepay the commission. And that is my answer to that one.
Awesome. So let's see if we have an answer to the trivia. And while we were doing that, if you have a gambling question you want to ask Mike, please put it in the chat. And apparently, going back to that, I said Couvert wrong. How do you pronounce that?
Couvert.
Couvert. Couvert. Okay. I'm horrible with pronunciations. Now, was the first person up in space, was that Alan Shepard?
Nope.
How about Buzz Aldrin?
Nope.
Elvis?
Nope.
Was it Gagarin?
Yes, it was Yuri Gagarin. He was
nice.
a Soviet astronaut. So the Soviet Union deserves proper credit for sending the first man to space. And it was largely that prompted the United States to get into the space race full throttle. But yeah, Yuri Gagarin, that is the right answer.
Nice.
Okay, next question. In 1968, who assassinated Robert Kennedy and in what city?
So if you know the answer, put that in the chat. And our next question comes from Technics. A friend uses a progressive betting system in Blackjack in which he raises his bet after he wins 3 hands in the amount of his winnings. What are the odds of winning 4 hands in a row?
Well, it doesn't matter um, the reason for his bets. The probability of a net win in blackjack, I would have to check my site, but if you don't count the pushes, then it's only about 45%. And to which you may say, that doesn't sound very high. I thought blackjack was a good value. But the reason it's only 45% is that when the player doubles and splits, he usually wins. So lots of times the player is winning 1.5, 2, or even more units. So if we say, just for the sake of example, the probability of a win, given that the bet was resolved, is 45%, and the probability of winning 4 in a row is about 4.1%. So there you go.
Awesome. Okay, and then going on to our next question. Actually, first we'll do a statement. All is well says, great evening.
You too. It's the afternoon here in Vegas, but good evening to you wherever you are.
And Wolf says, do either of you like to play Mahjong? The real version, not the solitaire one.
I don't really know how to play, to be honest. We had a Mahjong. I have a Mahjong set,
Ooh.
but it's so hard to get 3 other people that know the game and have the time to play it. I could see myself getting into it when I get older and my kids dump me in a nursing home. But yeah, no, for right now, shall we say, I think I would be a good Mahjong player, but I just don't have the right circle of friends to play it.
Okay. And I've always thought it was an interesting game. I just never was able to learn how to play. So, yeah. Okay. So let's see if anyone answered the trivia question. Was it Sirhan?
Sirhan.
Sirhan.
Yes, very good. And it was in California, Los Angeles to be specific. So another point for techniques. And
Very
the next
cool.
question is, what was Coca-Cola's first diet soda called? No, it wasn't Diet Coke. They had something even before that.
Okay. So if you know the answer to that, put that in the chat. Also, if you have a gambling question you want to ask Mike, please put that in the chat as well. And our next question comes from Mateo, who says, which blackjack games has a better house edge? Free bet 3-2 versus a regular 6-5.
It's free bet 3-2. The house edge on that, if I remember correctly, is right around 1%. And 6-5 blackjack is around 1.5. So yeah, that one's pretty easy. Free bet at 3-2.
Okay. And then let's do another gambling question, since that one was an easy one. And our next gambling question comes from Paul, who says, would you consider doing a YouTube video with an arcade YouTuber to assess the house edge on redemption ticket games?
Yeah, absolutely. I would not know like good questions to ask him or her. But one thing I would love to do sometime is to go to the Circus Arcade with an Advantage Carnival game player and talk about how to beat the games. But I know that they're skill based, like the one where you throw a softball at the milk bottles. I know you're supposed to aim at the bottom of the bottles, but I'm just not a good enough player to demonstrate that. But I did see another YouTube video where a professional baseball player was just killing it at all these games. And I love that video. And I would love to just kind of steal the idea. So that's kind of my idea, but I'm open to anything.
Okay. Let's see if we have an answer to the trivia. Is it a tab?
It is. It is tab. Let's see if anyone. Okay, it should be a capital T and a capital B, but but everyone who got tab gets a point.
Whew.
Good job. Okay, next question. in the 1968 movie 2001: A Space Odyssey, what was the model number of the HAL computer?
Okay, so if you guys know the answer to that, put that in the chat. And just a quick comment from Facts Fair. They said that my hair looks like Princess Leia. It's actually my headphones, not my hair. So,
But if you wrapped it up in like buns, it would look like Princess Leia.
so I just need to get some pins and then do this. Does that work? Something like that.
I think you would need to put chopsticks and whatever. It could
Okay,
also be Pippi Longstocking if they stuck straight out with like a wire.
we can definitely get that working. Watch.
Speaking of which, quick unofficial trivia question: what was the name of Pippi Longstocking's monkey?
Oh, okay. If you know that, put that in the chat as well. And then let's see. Next question comes from, here we go, Kiko, who says, ask Michael about the casino blackjack being rigged, all Playtech, or even maybe Evo, etc.
Well, if you're making the accusation that they're rigged, what is your evidence? I am making no such accusation. So I don't really understand what the question is, but I'm very scientific. If I've said this many times, if you have evidence that anybody is cheating at a casino game, give me some evidence, not just adjectives. I need numbers, and then I'll take a look at it and give it a fair test.
Yeah.
That is my answer to that one.
And also, if you are at a casino and you think that some kind of cheating is happening or something is wrong, you can always call the Nevada Gaming Control Board. Like, their phone number is available. They're easy to get a hold of. You could talk to people. They will want evidence as well, but they are always there for you.
I will say that if you contact them and say this Keno game is cheating, I'm losing like crazy, it's kicking my ass, blah, 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 they're just going to laugh at you. They're going to say, we need scientific evidence. Show me some data.
Some kind of
adjectives
evidence
are not going to cut it.
Yeah. Okay, so Adapters says, would you look into winning wager savers on the Dragon Link? It seems not to hit any winning lines.
I am not familiar with that game.
Okay, that makes it easy.
I can't help there.
Next one is from Jack Ace, who says, a question for both Michael and Heather. What gaming and or math related conferences do you look forward to attending or would like to attend?
Okay, I just came from the Global Game Protection and Table Games Conference last week, which was held at the Sahara. And that is a fun one. That is just for table games people. And there's always the table game showcase where starving game inventors try to pitch their games. And I make videos of all of them, and I will trickle them out over the next few months. And I know Heather used to love that show too. Too bad she couldn't make it this year. And anyway, that's a fun show. And there's another one. There's another table game show. I don't remember the name of it, but it's by Willie Allison. So there's two competing table game shows here in Vegas. One is more directed towards surveillance. That's Willie's show. And then the other one is more, I guess, I don't know, more of a general table game show. And that's by Richard Marcus. I'm more involved with Richard's show just because of the table game showcase. And then there's, of course, the Global Gaming Expo. That is the really big one for everything to do with gambling, everything from uniforms to dice to food and beverage, everything. And that's an enormous show at the Sands Convention Center. And so those are the only two that I attend on a regular basis. And I used to attend a lot of the iGaming shows, but I quit going to them. And yeah, so that is the conferences I like. And he asked you too, Heather. So what do you have to say?
Well, first, before I get into that, is there any gaming, or I mean, not gaming, math conferences
There
or
used to
anything?
be. I don't even
Okay.
know if they do it anymore, but there used to be this. I don't remember the name of it, but I think it was usually held in Lake Tahoe, and it was a conference for um, the mathematics of casino games, and intellectuals would present their papers about whatever they were writing about, and but I tend to think they don't do it anymore. I think that it just didn't get attended very well, and no, I never went to it. I always kind of found it. I would have liked to, but I guess I just couldn't justify the expense of it all, especially the opportunity cost of not getting any real work done during the conference.
Yeah. Okay. To answer the question, cutting edge, but I always call it cutting edge. And I know that since Richard bought it, it's not that anymore. But in my head, I continue
Mhm.
to call it cutting edge. But Richard's conference that just happened, that would probably be my favorite. And yeah, you're right. I wasn't there this year, but unfortunately, I had a funeral that I had to go to. So I picked the funeral over that. So
Okay, well, hope you can make it next year.
yeah, I hope so too. Okay, so let's see if we have any answers to the trivia question. Is it HAL 1000?
No, it was not HAL 1000.
Okay, was it HAL 9000?
Yes, it was. Who said that?
Yay! That was NetPilot.
Good
Whew,
job, NetPilot.
very cool.
Okay, how about Pippi Longstocking's monkey?
Let's see. Was it Mr. Nelson?
Yes, it was. Very
Whew.
good. Uh, that looks like Mr. Nielsen, but it was Mr. Nelson.
Oh,
Okay. All right. Next question. Which one should I ask? What is the event that, shall we say, launched the gay rights movement in the 1960s?
okay. So if you guys know, put that in the chat. And our next gambling question comes from James. And James says, hello, I am a beginner blackjack player who only knows the basic rules, but I want to be an expert and able to card count. Do you have any courses for someone like me?
I'm afraid not. I would recommend the website Blackjack Apprenticeship. If you search on that, I'm sure you'll find it. I don't know the exact URL off the top of my head, but they are devoted to explaining how card counting works and teaching people with. I don't know exactly how they do it, but that is their goal to actually teach it as opposed to just writing a book about it. And they have a lot of videos and things like that. And I like the people behind it. So they get my recommendation.
Awesome. And then my 2 cents on that is the high-low system is pretty good. You want to make sure you memorize the blackjack strategy guide, so that way you have somewhere to start off with, especially when you're doing deviations. And then just remember that you're going to have a lot of people throw a lot of different counting systems at you. Pick the one that is easiest for you, because the small amount of difference between each one, it's not really significant. So you might as well just use the one that you are most familiar with, that is most comfortable for you, and then just keep practicing.
Yeah, I agree with all that. And I would say I would recommend just the simple high low. And that's what I think most counters use. And
Mhm.
there will be a lot of elitist counters that will poo-poo you if you say you use the plus. I mean the high-low. They will say, "Oh, I use the advanced Revere Omega 3 or whatever it's called." And you know what? Good for them. Good for them. That's much harder to use, but the difference in power is kind of marginal. It's like
Yeah.
4 times as hard to learn, but you only get maybe an extra 20% of juice out of it. So for the average person, I think the plus minus, I mean the high low, is a good balance between ease of use and um, and player advantage.
Awesome. Should we do one more or go to a trivia answer?
Let's do one more.
Okay. Which game has the best odds? And this is from Pablo.
Yeah, that's probably the most common question I get. It depends on the exact rules, but it's probably going to be of the common casino games, either blackjack, video poker, craps, or ultimate Texas Hold'em. And again, it depends on the exact rules that the casinos offer.
Okay. Okay, so let's see if anyone has an answer to the trivia. And was that the Stonewall riots?
Yes, very good. Mateo 090920. Good job.
Very nice.
Okay, next question. In 1967, they had the first Super Bowl. Which two teams played and who won is the question.
Okay, so if you guys know the answer to that, put that in the chat. And our next gambling question is a good one, and that comes from Gary. When is the expected release date of the upcoming Gambling 102?
Okay, that's a bit of a sore subject with me.
Oh.
So I submitted the final copy in late December. And it has been in the waiting line for 4 months, and I'm not saying this in a complaining way, but the main new material in this book is on vulturing slot machines. And my publisher had an expert in this area look at the book just as I was like, it was going to be published. And he made some good recommendations. I think the book as it stood was fine, but he found a few ways to make it better. So my publisher hit the ball back to me and said, please make these changes. And so the ball is in my court. I need to redo some of the pictures, and I'm going to add a couple more games as long as it's in my court. I'm probably going to add some stuff about vulturing Ultimate X and Ultimate X Keno. So, I probably was saying early to 2023, late last year, and now we're looking at the summer. And it is what it is. I've learned that it's out when it's out. And if you start giving dates, you're going to be disappointed. So, and I know you want to date. So summer is what I'm going to say. And I know that's going to curse me, and it'll probably be in the fall just because I said the summer. But yeah, but again, I want to make it clear that I'm not complaining. The book is going to be even better now that I have more information to put into it. But this is just, I think it's often how it is in the publishing world.
Yeah, it takes so long. I mean, it is so long to get a book out.
Well, I mean, I get that, but it's just frustrating that you finally get it off your desk, and 4 months later, it's thrown back on your desk. But again, I'm not complaining because I was kind of expecting this, but because of this, because it's back on my desk, I can make it even more up to date and better.
That's cool.
So sore subject with me, but that's my answer.
Okay, so let's go to the trivia answers. Now, for the trivia answer, did you want who won that game, or did you want the two teams that were
against?
Who
lost for full credit?
Okay, so was it Packers versus Jets, and Packers won?
Half of that's right. The Green Bay Packers did win, but they did not beat the New York Jets.
Did they beat the Chiefs?
Yes, they did. Good job to Mateo 0920 again. And you got the score right too, 35-10.
Nice.
Good job. Okay, here's a tougher one for you. In 1969, the first email was sent from one university to another. The question is, which university sent it and which university received it?
Okay. So put those universities in the chat. And our next gambling question, it comes from the real, what is that? The Real Artworks. Awesome. And they said even electronic roulette plans the results with algorithms, right? So I'm guessing, do roulette use algorithms? Electronic roulette use algorithms to figure out who wins and who loses?
I don't really understand the question, but this this is kind of hits a nerve with me. Is I really don't like it when people misuse the word algorithm.
Mm.
If I don't want to sound insulting, but if someone doesn't know what the word properly means, they shouldn't use it at all. Um, I will say the electronic roulette is fair, and it does release the ball at a random time, spins the wheel at a random time, and there's probably random speeds. So electronic roulette is fair, and I tend to think that what you're asking is electronic roulette rigged? No, it is not. It is just as fair as if a live dealer were dealing it.
What is the difference between an algorithm and a random number generator?
A random number generator is something that just, like the title says, it picks a random number. It might pick a random number. Usually the range is between 0 and 2 to the 32nd power minus 1, which is about 4.3 billion. And then you would map that number to, say, a playing card or the roll of a die or something like that. And an algorithm is more of like a set of instructions to do something. Like there might be an algorithm to shuffle cards, something like that.
So with a random number generator, does it hit the same number twice, or can it hit the same number twice, or does it have some kind of instructions that says you can only hit one number once and then you can't hit that number again until we've
No,
gone through
it
the
just
list?
draws them one at a time, and it can certainly repeat numbers.
Okay.
So, for example, let's say that I wanted to code video poker, which I do. What I would do is first I would create my deck, and then I would shuffle it using what's called a Fisher-Yates algorithm, which ultimately that relies on calling a random number generator. And the random number generator would basically pick two positions in the deck and then switch those two cards. And if you do that enough times, then the deck gets sufficiently randomized. And there's more to it than that. It doesn't pick two random cards to switch. It basically starts at the top of the deck and then picks a random position and switches those two. And then it keeps moving down that fixed position down to the bottom. So it does switch card positions, I think 52 times, maybe it's 51. And statistics have shown that results in a very randomized deck. And but you can use whatever you want to accomplish randomly. You always start with a random number generator, and then you just have to code it to accomplish what you want to do. So you might ask, how do I take a random number between 0 and 4.3 billion and then map it to just say 0 to 51 for a particular playing card? It's really quite easy. You could divide that big number by 52 and take the remainder.
Okay. That's really cool to know.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, so our next question comes from Yes Notes. Is it possible to beat a 6 to 5 blackjack game with counting?
Absolutely. So with regular card counting, the advantage is about 1%. And the value that you lose in going from 3 to 2 to 6 to 5 is about 1.4%. So let's say that the house advantage was, say, 0.3% to begin with. So now we're looking, the house advantage in 6 to 5 blackjack is going to be about 2%. And so you're going to need to be really, really aggressive counting with 6 to 5 blackjack, like a spread of at least 1 to 10. But if you're aggressive enough, yes, it can be beaten. And a good thing with 65 blackjack is the casino personnel think that nobody counts 65 blackjack. So you're not going to get watched as carefully with that.
Okay. Good to
But
know.
card counters, I know, I've never heard of them actually doing it, counting 65 blackjack. There's just too much of a house advantage to overcome. But again, in theory, it can be.
Okay. And then Technic says, I learned how to play blackjack from your blackjack app you had years ago, but it doesn't seem to be available anymore. Did you move that that game or the app?
Let me see. So I'm going to go to my games.
So you go to wizardofodds.com.
Yeah, so I have my blackjack card counting game. And yeah, it's right here. And I haven't used this in a while. But yeah, if you go to Wizard of Odds and then games, click the blackjack, it says blackjack card counting. And I'm not sure if that's what you meant, but it's still right there.
Awesome. And then one more, because we're still waiting for you guys to answer the trivia. Mateo says, in blackjack, what are your thoughts on casinos making better games with less of a house edge and higher minimums? In my state, there are no 3-2 games unless the minimum is $25.
Yeah, that's just what the casinos do. Here in Vegas, it's hard to find a 3-2 game at anything lower than a $25 minimum, and in some cases, it's even 50. So that's just the market. Casinos complain legitimately that a 3-2 blackjack game at even a $25 minimum just is not very profitable. So it's just economics. That's just what they have to do to make more money in blackjack. They either have to go to 6 to 5 or raise the minimum, and they do a combination, which is I think is fair. I know that I used to be rather upset about 6 to 5 blackjack, but I've changed my position on that. That I try to see it from the casino's point of view, that they just couldn't make money at 3-2 at low bet amounts. And they can't. They're a business. They can't be expected to deal a game for charitable reasons. So that is my answer to that one.
So 6 to 5 grew on you?
I would never say it grew on me, but I just understand why it's out there, and
Okay.
it's just market forces.
Okay.
I respect
So
every market.
yeah, they no viewer answered the trivia question. Do you want to give the answer to that trivia question?
Yeah. I don't remember what the question was.
Universities.
Oh yeah. Yeah, that was it was sent from UCLA to Stanford University.
Okay.
Okay. In 1965, President Lyndon Johnson introduced what program of limited bombing of North Vietnam?
Okay, so put that answer in the chat. And our next question comes from Bag, who says, love your videos on betting systems. I've watched them all. Do people have more success long-term using custom computer algorithms for gambling, or does it end up being the same as a betting system?
Well, there's that word algorithm again. It really would depend on what kind of computer algorithm you're referring to. Algorithm is such a vague word that maybe you can give me an example of a computer algorithm for gambling. But I tend to think it's not going to make any difference. I tend to think that you're talking about the same thing. But maybe you could reword the question a little bit and I'll give it another try.
Okay, so I'll look out for your reworded question bag, and then I'll make sure to get that up here. The next one is from James, but he says a comment. It's not a question. He says, "Thank you guys so much for the information and taking the time to do a live video."
You're welcome.
And then a lot of people are saying, "May the 4th be with you." So that's really cool.
Yes, happy Star Wars Day to all the latecomers.
Yes. Here's a question from Seth Black. How does interlock roulette ETG control the ball to put it in its pocket?
This goes back to a previous question, is the electronic games do not cheat. A lot of people think that the game, say, predestines the ball to land in red 23. It does not. It just releases the ball randomly, spins the wheel randomly, and the ball lands wherever it bounces around and finally comes to rest. It's that simple. And I know that some people have accused Interblock of blowing air at the ball and stuff like this, but I don't believe it. In fact, I've done a big test on it because somebody did have some numerical evidence to suggest this was happening. And when I went to observe this player, I saw what seemed to me like a completely fair game. So I do not believe any of these conspiracy theories that Interblock or anybody is cheating at roulette.
Okay. And then we'll do one more question. And this is from Pinecone, who says, "Do you have a guesstimate on the value of comps? For example, as percentage of amount wagered? Or is it something just negligible?"
Okay, good question. One that could be talked about for hours. So I am big on saying that if you gamble low house edge games and play them properly, you can get more from the casino than you give them. For example, let's say you play Blackjack at a certain level and you play the basic strategy. I think that let's say that you're a $100 player and you're playing at good rules, which has a house advantage of say 0.3%. That means you can expect to lose 30 cents a hand. Let's say the speed of the game is 100 hands an hour. So now we're at $30 lost per hour. And let's say that you play 4 hours a day. So that comes to an expected loss of $120 a day. I think that for that play, the casinos are going to give you more than 120 in the form of mail, free rooms, comps, tournaments, whatever. This is what I've been trying to preach for decades, is that just gamble smart, and it's like getting free vacations. And a lot of people really boil this down to a science in terms of how much play is required to get what level of mail. But the value of comps is definitely high, and it's going to vary from casino to casino and game to game. But yeah, it's high. That's the short answer.
Okay. And then going to the trivia answers, was it the Ted offensive?
No, the Tet Offensive was something by North Vietnam. And the brief story of that was that Tet is the Vietnamese New Year. And traditionally, they always did not fight on that day. So we had our defenses down on whatever year on Tet, and they came out and did a surprise attack. But that was something by North Vietnam. I'm asking for something coming from our side.
Was it Rolling Thunder?
Yes, it was Rolling Thunder. Good job, Cat's Eye.
Nice.
Okay, what's the next question? Okay, let's get back to space. The question is, what was the first lunar mission that landed men on the moon, and what 3 astronauts were part of that mission?
Okay. So if you guys know, put that in the chat. And Bag ended up rewording his question. He said, I'm interested in live sports betting using betting systems versus algorithms and instructions for when and what to do in certain live number situations. Would this basically be equal to using a betting system?
Yeah, again, it would depend on what the algorithm or instructions were. Yeah. Again, maybe you could give me an example of what the algorithm or instruction is. And let's hit it back to you. Let's give it a third time to try to reword this in plain, simple English. And please don't use the word algorithm.
Okay. And Bag, I'll keep an eye out for your questions so we could get that taken care of. Okay. So our next question comes from Rich, oh dude, on are online hold'em deals random or determined off the deal? I.e., could I bet the round with an action, flop some cards, go back in time, and end the round slightly earlier and get a different flop?
The short answer is they're random. I'm sure that they are shuffling the cards many thousands of times before they actually do a real hand. And flop cards, go back in time, end around slightly earlier. All I want to say is that the cards are dealt fairly. It doesn't matter exactly the computer code that they use to shuffle the cards. Just take it on faith that that thinking about trying to figure out how the cards are shuffled is a waste of time.
Okay.
And a similar question I often get is, in video poker, are the cards on the draw, like the 6th through the 10th card in the deck, or how are they determined? Or is there one behind each card? And it doesn't matter. The actual answer is the remaining 47 cards are still continuously shuffled while the player is thinking. But mathematically speaking, it just doesn't matter. A random card is a random card.
Okay. And Kiko says, can Michael recommend Blackjack virtual dealer games for real money that is known to be fair or regulated?
I can't name any company off the top of my head. I think that most virtual dealer games for real money are fair, and I would stand behind any advertiser on the Wizard site. It doesn't mean that I personally vet them all, but the people in the Wizard team do care a lot about ethics and gambling, and we would kick off any advertiser on the site if we catch them cheating or doing anything unethical.
Okay. Let's see if you guys have an answer to those trivia questions. And was it Collins?
That's one of them.
Okay. Was it?
I asked for all 3 astronauts.
Neil Armstrong, Buzz Aldrin, and some other guy.
Okay, between the 2 of you, you're right. The other guy was Michael Collins. So you guys can split a point on that one. I was also asking for the name of the mission. Jim, you're right. It was the Apollo 11 mission.
Yeah, awesome.
Yes, many people forget about Michael Collins, who didn't land on the moon. He was the astronaut of the orbiting vehicle that picked them up after they were done with the moon.
Okay. And NetPilot was the only one that got all 3 of them in the same comment.
Okay, good job, NetPilot.
Woo.
Okay, what's the next question? How about What in 1966, the Miranda rights mentioned 2 rights and 1 warning. What were they?
So if you guys know, put that in the chat. And the next question comes from Uvidiot, who says, question for both Mike and Heather. If the Oakland A's moved to Las Vegas, how many games per season would you attend?
I would like to attend maybe 2 or 3 of them. Depends on the ticket cost. But I would absolutely like to. I still have yet to see a Raiders game because I'm still being slow to like the Raiders, and B, the tickets are just so expensive. But I know that there
How
are so
much?
many more baseball games and football games, and I would expect the prices to be more reasonable.
How much are the
In fact, I do
tickets?
sometimes go to the Las Vegas Aviators minor league games. Those are held pretty close to my house, and it's a pretty nice stadium.
Is that the stadium that's across from the Summerlin Mall?
Yep.
Okay.
Downtown Summerlin.
Sounds cool. I would attend 0. We'll just make that easy.
Okay.
Gary asks, Michael grabbed his calculator when you were talking about 6 to 5 blackjack. Does that calculator use RPN?
What does RPN stand for?
I thought he meant random number generator.
Well, then he should have said RNG. Let me look up what RPN stands for real quick. This says, when performing a process of design, the risk priority number, it says risk priority number is a calculation to sort the risks from highest to lowest, but I tend to think that's not what he's talking about. So why don't you re-ask your question, but tell us what RPN stands for.
Okay. And our next one comes from Paul. Is card counting really still a thing? Does surveillance always know the count?
It's absolutely still a thing. I would say that most card counters have moved on to other advantage plays, but I would say, but it's definitely still a thing. It's probably about 20% of how big it was at its all-time high. There should be somebody in surveillance who can catch it, who can tell a counter quite easily if the casino knew what they were doing, and I trust that they would. So yeah, so if counting is your thing, have at it. I will say that card counters loved it during COVID when they could wear face masks and play, because they were very hard to recognize.
Yeah, just put a baseball cap on and a face mask. You're good to go.
Yep, maybe glasses too.
Yeah.
Yep.
Next
question.
Seth says on the patent for interblock roulette, it has an RNG, so it must be controlled. Is that correct?
No, I'm sure it has a. I don't know what it probably has an RNG because it probably randomizes exactly when to release the ball and maybe the wheel speed. But that only randomizes it even more. So does it make it controlled? I would say that it's controlled to be a fair game.
Okay. Okay, so let's see what else we got here. Paul asks, what is the best table game with a combination of a low house edge and volatility like a slot machine?
Okay, so you want something with a low house edge and high volatility. A video poker is a good one, and I would say Ultimate Texas Hold'em.
Okay.
As compared to craps and blackjack, which have a rather low volatility.
Yeah, and just to add my 2 cents, typically when you have a low house edge, that's low volatility. If you have a high house edge, that's high volatility. You'll see more jackpots and more progressive jackpots and that type of a thing, and higher payouts with a higher house edge. So
I don't see as much of a correlation there.
Okay.
To be honest with you. I will say casinos in general, with things like side bets that have high volatilities, they do tend to have a high house edge. But I would say that maybe that's just a good generalization, but it's not a very strong correlation.
Okay.
Okay.
Cool. Okay, so what was the trivia? I'm blanking.
What was it? Oh, the Miranda rights. What are the two rights they afford people, and what is the warning?
Okay. So we have a lot of people answer, and we'll go from top to bottom.
Okay.
Right to remain silent and get an
Yes.
attorney.
Right. And what is the warning?
Ooh, the warning. Let's see. Warning is about saying anything.
Right. Anything you say can be used against you in a court of law.
Yep. So Gary got it.
Yep. Good job, everybody who got it.
Nice.
Okay, let's go back to the Vietnam War. What was the name of the U.S. destroyer that got sunk in the Gulf of Tonkin that, shall we say, set us off into the war? Previously, we're just kind of advising, but this was what prompted the U.S. to actually send troops there.
So if you know, put the answer in the chat. And our next gambling question comes from Technics, who says, could AI be useful for sports betting?
I don't see how, to be honest with you. I could see in the future games played with AI teams or players. In fact, you could actually have two different like computers, playing against each other with yet another computer, shall we say, providing random numbers, kind of like battle bots. Yeah, but in terms of using AI for helping with games with real players, I don't see a way, but maybe there's something that I don't see.
Okay. Our next question comes from Jose. In my local casino, basic strategy has been difficult to implement. Any reason why? Does it have to do with the machine?
I don't understand why the basic strategy would be difficult to implement in one casino as opposed to another. It's just simple memorization. So maybe I misunderstand your question by being difficult to implement. Maybe you could rephrase it and ask me again.
Okay. So I will look out for your rephrase, Jose. And until then, our next question comes from a lot of people talking.
Okay. Well, I was thinking about showing you guys a magic trick.
Yes, let's do that.
Okay. So this is one I just learned. Forgive me if it doesn't go too well. Okay. So let me start by taking the jokers out of this deck. Okay, that's both of them. Okay, the way I would normally do this is I would ask someone to cut the cards, but since I don't have anyone here, Heather, you say stop at any time.
Okay, stop.
Okay, so let's take the cards that we cut to, and normally I would have you pick one out, but I'm going to run my finger across them, and you say stop at any time.
Stop.
Okay, you stopped on this one. Okay, I'm going to turn around and show this to the camera, but I don't want to see it.
Okay.
Did you see it?
Yep, we got it.
I'm putting it back down. And I'm going to put this aside. Well, I'll put it over here so you guys don't think I'm cheating, so you can still see it. Okay? Okay. Okay, next I'm going to put the deck into 4 different piles. and I'm going to turn over these two. Then I'm going to shuffle these two piles together. And then I'm going to shuffle these two piles together. And then I'm going to shuffle these two piles together. So after all that, this deck should have a mixture of face up and face down cards. So let's have a look.
Ooh.
Would you look at this?
Wow.
All the face-up cards are hearts. And not only that, they seem to be in order. I want to keep everything on camera. We have the Ace of Hearts, 2, 3. We're missing a 4, 5. Oh, here's the 4.
There's the 4.
2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I don't see the 7, 8, 9, 10, Jack, Queen, King. So looks like we're missing the 7 of hearts here.
Yes. You got it. That is so awesome. Oh, it looks like he froze a bit. Yep, he froze. Okay, so we'll give Mike just a couple minutes to unfreeze because it looks like his camera and mic are frozen. And we are close to the end. So oh, good. There you are. You're back.
I was getting a blank screen for a while there.
Okay, yeah, you froze at us for a second. But
okay.
That was so cool. That was the neatest card trick.
I'm tempted to show you guys how to do it, but I think I'm not going to. Maybe I'll do it on the next live stream.
Well, one of the players said, please make a video with all of your card tricks.
Oh, by the way, speaking of card tricks, when I was at the gaming show last week, I made a bunch of videos doing magic, probably about 7, and I put those on my Platypus Garden YouTube channel, which is where I put all my non-gambling stuff. So go to YouTube, search on Platypus Garden channel, and you should find it, and you'll see a whole bunch of videos of miscellaneous stuff that I do and places I've been. And I posted, Angela is in all of them. Many of my fans probably know who Angela is. And so speaking of magic, please enjoy those new videos that I put out there for you guys.
They're really fun. I enjoyed them.
Thanks. And that would bring us to the end of the show.
Now,
did I leave any trivia unanswered?
Yeah, we had one trivia question we didn't answer. The very last one. Was it the USS Roosevelt?
No.
Lestinia?
Nope.
USS Frank.
Lestinia was related to World War II, I believe.
Okay.
Nope.
The USNS card?
Nope.
Rory?
No, it wasn't.
That was World War
Thank
I.
you. World War I. I stand corrected there.
Yeah. The United States.
The question is, and I'm not positive this is right, but what passenger ship sinking had the most casualties? And I believe it was the Lusitania, but maybe it shouldn't count because it was deliberately sunk.
Okay.
But any other guesses there?
No other guesses, but Jose corrected his question. He said he memorized the ultimate Texas Hold'em basic strategy and 4 times the bets in accordance to the strategy. However, I noticed I lose on those strong hands, i.e. pocket aces. And can the ultimate Texas Hold'em shuffle machine be tweaked to give the house an edge?
I mean, anything is possible, but I would strongly suggest that you just had bad luck, and the shuffler is just fine and random.
Yeah.
But
And
in
it's
theory,
a,
the shufflers right now are intelligent, as they say, and they know the whole order of the cards.
right. But
So
they're keeping track of the cards. So if a card
yeah,
is missing, they can alert the floor
yeah,
supervisor. They're not tweaking the cards. So that way it
yeah.
gives the house a better edge.
Right, but I strongly feel that the shufflers are fair. I hear accusations a fair bit that they're not, but I've yet to see any evidence to that. So with that, let's let that be the last comment. Heather, I know that in the previous live stream we were going to do the next one May 11th.
Yeah, but I screwed up on this one.
Yeah, but
That was my
how
fault.
about we make the next one May 18th? Okay.
That sounds good.
Okay.
So it was good to see you.
Good to see you too. Thanks, audience, for showing up. And
Yeah.
um,
May the 4th be with you.
may the 4th be with you. Bye.
Bye.